Today, we're going to be looking at the new proposed changes from Riot that they've got on the PBE as part of patch 5.07. And I've dubbed it the Flash and Fracture update, as we're getting major updates to Fracture, as well as major updates to the way that flashes work. I'm not here to waste your time, so let's get straight into it. First thing that we're going to look at are the flash updates, and we have visual updates for the way that flashes are rendered in both third person and first person. So basically, in third person, if you flash someone and you're looking at their model, they're fully flashed, the whole golden glow around their face is there. As that flash starts to dissipate, the front half around the model's face disappears and it only remains behind their head, which lets you know that they're coming out of the flash and they might be able to start seeing you in a very short amount of time. And then it dissipates from the back of their head as the flash runs out. So this is really nice. You no longer flash someone, walk around the corner, and it looks like they're fully flashed, but they're only half flashed, and they kill you, and it looks like they've just smashed you fully flashed, but it's actually the half flash. So really, really nice. And then in first person, when you are flashed, instead of just having the full animation while you are flashed, as the flash starts to run out, it'll give you an indicator, and the flash sort of starts shrinking on your screen and dissipating until you're unflashed. So really, really nice updates for both when you're flashed and when you're flashing someone to give a better understanding of where you are in that flash. And then a small update as well, you get assists for 3 seconds after you flash someone instead of just 1 second after. So you might be racking up more assists on flash agents. Now we're going to start talking about the agents which have been buffed and nerfed. So essentially what this sort of boils down to that you're looking at reading on the screen is KO and Sky functioned too effectively in one-to-one duels and could be used to replace duelists and outclass flash duelists in a lot of scenarios. KO's underhand, his pop flash, his right click was so good out of smokes and around corners, and Sky's pop flash, where you would just send the bird and pop it instantly around the corner as well, just too good in those scenarios. So they've nerfed KO and Sky's pop flashes and rewarded their long flash ability, but they've also buffed Yoru and Reyna in line with the Phoenix buffs to give them more selfish play. So what that looks like in terms of the numbers and actual changes is that Sky's flash now has a scale. So it scales from 1.25 if you pop flash instantly, or all the way up to 2.25 after a 0.5 second charge up. So Sky's flash you can send for a few seconds, but you will get the maximum duration flash after 0.75 seconds, not after. It doesn't scale all the way through the flash. And there's a little indicator that'll be on screen now. The big change to benefit this as well is that Sky's bird can no longer be shot and destroyed, which stops her from being punished to do long flashes for the team and flash deep into sight. And then also they've upped the unequip delay by 0.1 of a second. So between these three things, it now encourages you to go for those longer flashes. Same treatment to KO that we spoke about. The underhand has gone all the way down from 2 seconds to 1.25 seconds. And the overhand has got a slight buff from 2 to 2.25. So rewarding that longer distance flash, as well as not in the PBE either, but the unequipped delay of both flashes has gone from 0.6 to 0.85. So it's harder to play off of your own pop flash as well. And now we move to the duelists. Really interesting changes for Reyna here. The wind up of the near side effect is now quicker. So that the time that it gets sent out, it lands, and then it near sights everyone is 0.2 quicker. The range restriction of Lear is now removed. So if you can see the eye, you are nearsighted from anywhere that you can see it. Any angle, there's no range restriction. So this is going to be really helpful on maps like Breeze and Icebox, where there are those really long ranges that the eye you wouldn't catch people. So we might see more Reyna play on those maps. The near sight equip delay, the time after you press Q to pull it out, is shorter. And after you've thrown it, you instantly equip your gun now. There's no longer a delay in equipping your gun. And then the duration is decreased from 2.6 to 2.0. Now, the philosophy of all of these changes are that all of these things allow Reyna to do more solo play, especially the equip and unequip times. So pulling your gun out and being able to throw it faster is all really good for solo play for Reyna. But they didn't want to make it too strong of a team play situation where if you threw out the Lear and it just sat there and no one shot it, that's super valuable for the team to flood in. So it's now a shorter duration to stop that team flood, but it's long enough, the devs think, that it still allows you to make really strong solo plays. And then a very simple 1.5 to 1.75 buff on Yoru's flash, trying to bring Yoru up to speed with the other agents. So yeah, overall, I think these changes are great, giving different identities to flash initiators and flash duelists. I think it was something that was desperately needed in Valorant, and I'm looking forward to seeing the way that these play out in ranked play, but also in the pro meta too. And then a really nice little change here is that they've reduced the size of the hologram on dead bodies, which means for someone like me in Australia, where I don't have the choice, I have to use the hologram. It's no longer going to get in my way when I'm trying to hold an angle. And now let's get into what is probably the biggest changes in the patch. These changes to Fracture, there's quite a few of them, especially toward the A side, a site that is kind of a pain in the ass to play. So the first change that we can see, this is a sort of minor change, and it sort of is affected by one of the major changes, which we'll see in a second, is that this ramp into spawn is a little bit skinnier. This is going to make it a little bit harder for attackers to flood through here into spawn and create this really strong area to play around. But there, at the same time, this angle here looking into spawn is now created, so that might be a really interesting thing to play around with an attacker. If you take rope space instead of pushing into spawn, you might have this really nice angle as defenders try to rotate through spawn, but pushing down is going to be a little bit harder because it is a skinnier area. And then here we have the first major change, rafters here. We now have an A rafters, which can see all the way into sight. You can still see dish from here. This means that this area can no longer just be smoked off and dealt with. You have to deal with the whole sort of rafters area, or someone could push out of the smoke onto the rafters, out of the doorway. A really, really interesting change, I think, overall. And let's just have a look. Also, this little nook here, this 50-50 hidey hole that was created, has now been taken away. So this is just a flat wall. So I really like this change overall. For both teams, attackers and defenders, it's going to be a much more interesting place to play around. A little bit harder to take, but when you have it, a much more stronger area to own. And now we have the drop changes. So as you can see, this used to just be a 50-50 drop out of here. You'd just come out and you'd have to swing into all areas. Made it really hard to push as attackers, and also really hard to retake through as defenders. So they've changed this. So they've made this little cutout here, which means you can drop down, or you can walk up here, clear over to this side, drop down, and then you can worry about attacking sight. So it allows you to just, it gets rid of the 50-50, and as few major 50-50s that you can have on a map. Some small ones are good, but something like pushing into the main choke point of a site, being a like crazy 50-50 where you're exposed to a million different angles at once, is probably something that needed to be changed. And this is probably the biggest change. Even if they only changed this for Fracture, I still think it would completely change the map was played. And so it makes pushing through the dish a lot easier. But then dish has completely been changed as well. They've taken out the whole like backside of dish. So now it's just this single lane. And this is an interesting change. I think getting rid of this, dish was a really interesting area, but I think it was also problematic. Having something, it was super hard to clear out. KO knife was super good if you were taking it to dish, because it would take out, it would just let you know if there's anyone in the dish area that you had to worry about, and you could push through, and it was a really strong tool. But it was the same thing. It was just like a crazy sort of cat and mouse, 50-50. You pick the wrong angle at the wrong time. Super hard area to play around for both attackers and defenders. And it just meant that most players would, especially at pro level, would just sort of leave it alone. Like, let's just put a chamber trip at dish. If anyone tries to come through there, they're going to have a hard time getting out of drop anyway, so we can just deal with them then. Let's not take the risk of pushing through or trying to hold dish when it's like this really hard kind of area to play around. So there we have that. And now we're going to move, skip ahead a little bit here, and we can see that we've got some changes to this sort of outside of arcade B lobby, I guess. No, it's not B lobby. It's just outside of arcade area. There used to be a little box here. That's now gone. That's now created this whole nook area, and this whole space is a lot wider. lot less of a choke point for defenders to push out of. One of the best places that you could push out of as a defender, and holding Arcade was really strong as a defender. So this is much more approachable for attackers to come through, as they're not going to get choked as hard. I really like this change overall. It looks like it's a little bit deeper this side as well. I might be mistaken, but this does look a little bit deeper. So it's just a bit more of an open area for attackers to play with. I think it's a really nice change. Arcade looks unchanged. I think Arcade's a great area. And then we just have this little ramp towards into B. It means you don't have to jump out of sight. And then there's this little box all the way down in B main in one of the trailers. So there's also this box in one of the trailers. Floxay doesn't go down there, so maybe he didn't notice, or maybe it's not changed. But in one of the trailers for Champions, I think it was, this box got changed from like a double stack box and got cut in half to a single box, providing less cover here for attackers as well. So I'm not sure if that's changed or if that's been taken out as a change. But I'm really excited for these fracture changes. I'm really curious to see how it all unfolds. Just before the map changes come out, I might try and make some meta predictions of more agents that we might see. You know, we might see Sage and Viper to deal with rafters, because they're already kind of strong at like cutting sight in half, or like taking these angles away, or Viper taking this angle away. Sage walling off here is already really strong. So we might see more Sage and Viper and moving away from the Brim and moving away from the Brim Neon Breach meta. I don't think there'll be too many major changes, but with some different ideas of how to attack, that can really change the way that the site is played. This area might be a lot harder for someone like Brim to smoke, because these smokes are smaller. That Astra and Viper smokes on drop might be something that's necessary. Who knows? So yeah, I'll be making a video about predictions of those kind of things. And then once the map comes out and we see and things sort of start to settle down, we'll make some content around the new ideas that you can have on Fracture after some testing. I'm really looking forward to these changes. I'm really looking forward to these changes, especially the flash changes. I think that's going to be really, really good and healthy for the meta. Yeah, do all the good stuff. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Take care. Have a good one.